Hey guys, it's Sylvia from historic Fountain City, Wisconsin, where I have a shop that I sell my crafts, repurposed items, and I hold workshops. And in today's video, I'm going to repurpose two lampshades that I thrifted. Let's get creating. For the first lampshade, I am going to be using DIY in Farm Fresh. And I'm just going to paint the whole lampshade. Farm Fresh is a beautiful light blue. It looks a little darker when you're applying the paint and the paint's still wet. However, after it dries, it's such a beautiful light blue shade. While the lampshade's drying, I'm going to grab, I believe it's a 6-inch round that I had in my hoard. I'm using a baby white and white acrylic paint, and I am going to stain the wood round. When using the baby white and acrylic paint, I always go with the grain of the wood. If you'd like a lighter color, you can always add another application. What I like about this method is it dries quickly. It doesn't smell, and you can use any color you like. And when I use this method, it's so nice that I can still see the wood grain just as if I had used a regular stain method. Next, I'm using DIY Old and Gray patina, and using the same method, I'm going to take a baby wipe and going with the grain of the wood, I'm going to give it a light coat. Since this is a patina, I won't have to seal the wood round. This patina is a sealant, and it also kind of is light enough of a gray that it's still a light color, but it's not a bright white. So here you can kind of see the effects, and I can still see some of that grained in the wood. Next, as I'm checking my lampshade, I did paint the inside of the lampshade, and then I use DIY Big Top, and I coat the whole lampshade. And once the lampshade is sealed and dried with the Big Top, you can see how that blue is much lighter than when I was originally applying the paint and it was wet. I cut out a pink rose from the IOD Fairy Tale Florals transfer set, and I am going to apply the IOD onto the lampshade. The clear coat has dried. It's important to make sure that there is a clear coat or that the paint has been sealed and it's dry before applying a transfer. I'm using my scissors to clip around the transfer since the lampshade is kind of a rounded, awkward shape and not a flat surface. Next, I just decide where I'd like to place my transfer. And remember, when using the transfers, to make sure the paint or the product you're adhering to has been sealed. Again, I used Big Top by IOD to seal the lampshade. It's dry before I'm applying the transfer. I'm just going to use some painter's tape to hold the transfer down before I rub and adhere it to the lampshade. I use painter's tape to adhere the transfer to minimize the risk of tape peeling off the product or the paint, which is also why it's really handy that the DIY top coat I use to seal the paint is completely dry. The IOD transfers comes with an application stick. So I'm just going to grab my clear little stick and I'm going to gently rub over the transfer to adhere it to the surface of the lamp. It's nice and easy to see how the transfer turns a lighter color as it starts to adhere to the surface. I always like to try and make sure that I have rubbed the whole transfer. And if a piece of the transfer does not adhere the first time, you can always lay it back down and line it up and rub some more to get it back or attached to the surface. And this transfer actually went on pretty easy, although it might not seem like it. But I just went a little slower than normal because of that curved surface and making sure that I was rounding the whole surface. Once I have it fully rubbed on, I'm just going to remove the backing and the rose is adhered to the lampshade. Next, I'm going to just take that backing and I am going to varnish, I think that's what it's called, the transfer. I'm just going to use that backing and I'm just going to rub over the transfer, very minimal pressure, just to adhere, to ensure that it is adhered to the surface. Using DIY Big Top, I'm just going to take a paintbrush and I'm going to go over the rose or the transfer to seal the transfer onto the lampshade. I feel like it needs one good rubbing before I seal it. But I'm just going to grab a brush, give it a light coat of Big Top, and then I'm going to let that dry. Also, I'm only going over just the rose, the panels with the rose. The rest of the lampshade is fully covered, so I'm only focusing on the area where I applied the transfer. Once the lampshade is dry and the Big Top has dried, I'm going to grab the DIY wax in white and I'm going to take a wax brush or a flat stencil brush and I'm going to just apply the white wax all over the lampshade. I'm just going to pounce it all over and rub it in and fully coat it. And to be honest, you really don't have to use that much wax. I think I loaded my brush only once or twice with wax to coat the whole lampshade. And as you can see, applied that wax right over the transfer. I'm not even worried about it because I know it's sealed with the Big Top. Now, once that I have the lampshade fully covered in wax, I'm going to take a clean cloth and I am gently wiping away the excess wax and leaving the white in the crevices and around the transfer area. I really like how that white wax helps accent the lampshade and also lightens it up a bit. Then using my E6000, I'm just going to place some glue around the top of the lampshade. I think I was being careful not to apply too much. So I was just placing down small amounts, and I think I ran around it twice. Then I'm using a baby wipe to just wipe off a little bit of that extra paint before I place the top on. Making sure the top side is up, I'm just going to place the wood round right on top. So, what do you guys think? At first, I thought these would be like plant holders, but I'm like, these are kind of cute risers too. So, what do you think? Is this something you would make? Is this something you would use as a riser or more of a plant stand? Let me know in the comments. For project 2, I had this lampshade. I had used the base of the lamp in a previous video where we created snowmen. I created a snowman out of the base of the lamp, and this is the lampshade that was left over. So I'm just using a box cutter and kind of slicing up the sides of the lamp to remove it from the frame. 2 layers of material, and the box cutter actually cut through the material rather easily. However, the seams were a little bit more tricky. I went a little bit slower with the seams. As if anyone knows me, I'm one that would actually like slice my fingers. So I just had to take it a little slower around the seams and then rip that seam right off. Then the rest of it will come off fairly easily. I'm not gonna lie, it was actually pretty satisfying as I got to rip that material right off the frame. Once I was able to remove the material, I grabbed my little hand sander, I call it my gator, and I just went around the edges of the frame to remove the dried up glue that was used to adhere the material to the frame. I'm now going to use Cast Iron by Fusion Mineral Paints to paint the whole frame in a black. Now, Fusion Mineral Paint is self-sealing, so when I am done painting the frame, it'll be sealed. I don't even have to worry about applying another coat or spraying it for a sealant. Next, I'm grabbing this 10-inch wood round that I have in my stash, and I'm going to use the same method. I'm grabbing a baby wipe and using burnt umber acrylic paint and going with the grain of the wood. I'm going to stain my board. And I'm also making sure to do my edges and the back side. Once my lampshade, the frame of the lampshade is dry, I'm just going to grab the wood round, the lampshade, and use E6000. First, I need to centerize my frame to the wood round. Grab the E6000 glue, lightly go around the edges of the top part of the frame. And then I will adhere it to the wood round. Once I have the frame centerized and attached to the wood round, I'm just going to take a baby wipe and I'm going to dab around the frame and the wood to pick up some of the glue that seeped out. And once I have that frame where I want it and the glue all cleaned up, I'm just going to let it sit overnight while the glue cures and hardens. So, what do you guys think? Would you use it as a riser or as a plant stand? I would have loved to have set it up as a plant stand, but I can't keep plants alive. So, for the time being, I'm going to have to use it as a riser. If you enjoy this type of content or if you found this video inspirational, please hit subscribe below and follow me on my creative journey. Thank you.